Chapter 11, Developmental Theories. Understanding normal growth and development will help the nurse predict, detect, and prevent deviations from patients' expected patterns. Each individual has a unique pattern of growth and development. The ability to progress through each phase of development will influence the overall health of the individual. The success or failure experienced within a phase will affect the ability to complete subsequent phases. If individuals have repeated developmental failures, inadequacies may result. The human development is both dynamic and complex in process. It cannot be explained by only one developmental theory. Fundamental to Gazel's theory of development is that each child's pattern of growth is unique and that their pattern is directed by gene or genetic activity. Sequential development is evident in a fetus. There is a specified order of organ system development. The cephalocaudal pattern describes a sequence where growth is fastest at the top, where the head and brain develop faster than an arm or a leg. The proximodistal growth pattern starts at the center of the body and moves toward the extremities. The organ systems in the trunk of the body develop before the arms and the legs. Poor nutrition or chronic disease will often affect the growth rate and result in smaller stature, regardless of a person's genetic blueprint. Psychoanalytical and psychosocial theories, these describe the development of personalities, cognitive, and behavior. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical model of personality development states that individuals go through 5 stages of psychosexual development, and each stage is characterized by sexual pleasure in parts of the body: the mouth, anus, and the genitals. Freud believed that adult personality is the end result of how an individual resolves conflict between these sources of pleasure and the mandates of reality. Stage 1 is oral. Initially, sucking and oral satisfaction are not only vital to life, but are also extremely pleasurable in their own rights. A disruption in the physical or emotional availability of the parent could affect an infant's development. It'll create inadequate bonding, or potentially chronic illness would be a disruption. Stage 2 is anal. This is where the focus of pleasure changes to the anal zone. Children become increasingly aware of pleasurable sensations in the body region and the interest in the products of their effort. Through the toilet training process, the child will delay gratification to meet parental and societal expectations. Stage 3 is phallic. The genital organs are the focus of pleasure during this stage. The boy becomes interested in the penis. The girl becomes aware of the absence of the penis, known as penis envy. This time of exploration and imagination. The child fantasizes about the parent of the opposite sex as their first love interest, known as Oedipus or Electra complex. Stage 4 is latency. In this stage, children repress and channel sexual urges from the earlier Oedipal stage into productive activities that are socially acceptable. Within the educational and social worlds of a child, there is much to learn and accomplish. Stage 5 is genital. The final stage, sexual urges reawaken and are directed to an individual outside of the family circle. unresolved prior conflicts surface during adolescence. Once an individual resolves conflicts, they are capable of having a mature adult sexual relationship. The components of human personality develop in stages and regulate behavior. These are the id, ego, and the superego. The id is the most primitive part of personality and originates in infancy. The id is the basic instinctual impulses that are driven to achieve pleasure. The infant cannot tolerate delay and must have needs met immediately. The ego will represent reality. This mediates conflicts between environment and the forces of the id. The ego helps people judge reality accurately, regulate impulses, and make good decisions. The superego performs regulating, restraining, and prohibiting actions. Often referred to as the conscious, the superego is influenced by the standards of outside social forces. For trust versus mistrust, this is in infancy, and establishing a basic sense of trust is essential for the development of a healthy personality. An infant's successful resolution at this stage requires a consistent caregiver who is available to meet the infant's needs. From this basic trust in parents, an infant is able to learn to trust themselves, others, and the world. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. The growing child is accomplished in some basic self-care activities, like feeding, walking, toileting. A newfound independence is the result of maturation and imitation. A toddler will develop their own autonomy through making choices. Initiative versus guilt. Children like to pretend and try out new roles. Fantasy and imagination allow them to explore their environment. They are developing their superego or conscience. There are conflicts between the child's desire to explore and the limits placed on their behavior. Conflicts sometimes lead to feelings of frustration and guilt. Industry versus inferiority. School-age children are eager to apply themselves to learning socially productive skills and tools. They learn to work and play with their peers. Children thrive on their accomplishments and praise. Without the proper support for learning new skills, or if skills are too difficult, children may develop a sense of inadequacy and inferiority. Identity versus role confusion. Dramatic physiological changes are associated with sexual maturation that mark this period. There is preoccupation with appearance and body image. This stage, identity development begins with the goal of achieving some perspective or direction and answers the question, who am I? Acquiring a sense of identity is essential for making adult decisions such as the choice of employment or marriage partner. Intimacy versus isolation. Young adults develop a sense of identity, deepen their capacity to love others and care for them. The young adult searches for meaningful friendships and an intimate relationship with another person. Generativity versus self-absorption and stagnation. Following the development of an intimate relationship, an adult focuses on supporting future generations. The ability to expand one's personal and social involvement is critical to this stage of development. Middle-aged adults achieve success in this stage by contributing to future generations through parenthood, teaching, mentoring, and community involvement. Achieving generativity results in caring for others as a basic strength. Integrity versus despair. Many older adults review their lives with a sense of satisfaction, even with inevitable mistakes. Others see themselves as failures, with their lives marked by despair and regret. Older adults will often engage in retrospective appraisal of their lives. They interpret their lives as a meaningful whole or experience regret because of goals they did not achieve. Ahmed is in his first semester of nursing school and is learning about Freud's developmental theory. In what order would he place the stages of psychosocial development as determined in Freud's psychoanalytical model of personality development? The current order of stages of psychosocial development are stage 1, oral, stage 2, anal, stage 3, phallic or oedipal. Ahmed is studying Gazel's theory of development with a friend. The friend says, according to Gazel's theory of development, each child's pattern of growth is a result of environmental influences. The answer is false. According to Gazel's theory of development, each child's pattern of growth is directed by gene activity, not by environmental factors. Temperamental traits identified in infancy may continue to influence a child's behavior through middle school. Personality and temperament are often closely linked, and individuals possess some enduring characteristics into their adulthood. The easy child is seen as easygoing and even-tempered. The child is regular and predictable in their habits. The easy child is open and adaptable to change and displays a mild to moderate intense mood that is typically positive. The slow to warm up child will display discomfort when introduced to new situations and needs time to adjust to a new environment, authority figures, and expectation. The slow to warm up child will respond with tears, somatic complaints, and other maneuvers to avoid the situation, like complaining of a stomachache to avoid going to school. The difficult child is seen as highly distracted, active, irritable, and irregular in their habits. These children may benefit from practice or role-playing to be successful with new skills, situations, or environments. Lifespan development is lifelong, multidimensional, multidirectional, and contextual. Development is an interaction of biological, sociocultural, and individual factors. Psychoanalytical and psychosocial theories focus on an individual's unconscious thought and emotions. Cognitive theories stress how individuals learn to think and make sense of their world. Piaget's theory of cognitive development includes 4 periods that are related to age and demonstrate specific categories of both knowing and understanding. Sensory motor. Infants develop a pattern for dealing with their environment. The pattern becomes self-initiated activities where the infant, learning that sucking achieves a pleasing result, generalizes to the action to suck fingers, blanket, or clothing. Successful achievement leads to greater exploration. The child learns about themselves and their environment through motor and reflex actions. They learn that they are separate from the environment and that aspects of the environment continue to exist even though they cannot always be seen. Piaget termed this understanding that the object will continue to exist even though they cannot be seen as object permanence, and it is considered one of the child's most important accomplishments. In pre-operational, one learns to think and use symbols and mental images. The child will exhibit egocentrism in that they see objects and people from only one point of view, which is their own. They believe that everyone experiences the world exactly as they do. Early in this stage, the child will demonstrate animism in which they personify objects. They believe that inanimate objects have lifelike thought, wishes, and feelings. Their thinking is influenced greatly by fantasy and magical thinking. Nursing interventions during this period recognize the use of play as the way the child understands events that are taking place. Concrete operations. The child is able to perform mental operations. They can think about an action that was performed physically before. They are able to describe a process without doing it. The child is able to coordinate two concrete perspectives in social and scientific thinking. Children are able to mentally picture a series of steps and reverse the steps to get back to the starting point. They are able to correctly order or sort through objects by length, weight, or other characteristics. In formal operations, the child goes from goes through transition from concrete to formal operational thinking. This occurs in stages during which there is a prevalence of egocentric thought. Egocentricity leads to adolescents to demonstrate feelings and behaviors characterized by self-consciousness, a belief that actions and appearance are constantly being scrutinized, thoughts and feelings are unique, and that they are invulnerable. Feelings of invulnerability will lead to risk-taking behaviors, especially in early adolescence. Ahmed is learning that psychoanalytical theorists varied greatly in their perceptions related to development. One of them believed that development occurred throughout the lifespan and focused on psychosocial stages. Which theorist was it? Piaget, Freud, Erikson, or Chess? The answer is C. Erik Erikson believed that development occurred throughout the lifespan and that it focused on psychosocial stages rather than psychosexual stages. Research in adult cognitive development supports that adults do not always arrive at one answer to a problem, but frequently they accept several possible solutions. Adults will incorporate their emotions, logic, practicality, and flexibility when they make decisions. Moral development refers to the changes in a person's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that will influence the beliefs about what is right or wrong. It encompasses both interpersonal and intrapersonal dimensions. Kohlberg's theory is applicable to from age 4 until adulthood. Children younger than 4 do not understand morality. In pre-conventional reasoning, premoral level limited cognitive thinking, and an individual's thinking is primarily egocentric. Thinking is based on likes and pleasures. The stage progresses toward having punishment guide behavior. A person's moral reason for acting, the why, eventually relates to consequences that the person believes will occur. In stage 1, punishment and obedient orientation. The child's response to a moral dilemma is to obedience for authority and rules. A child in this stage reasons, I must follow the rules, otherwise I will be punished. Avoiding punishment or unquestioning deference to authority is characteristic motivation to behave appropriately. Stage 2, instrumental relativist orientation. The child recognizes that there is more than one right view. The teacher has one view that is different from the parent's view. The decision to do something morally right is based on satisfying one's own needs and occasionally the needs of others. The child perceives punishment as something that one wants to avoid. Children at this time will follow their parents' rule about being home in time for dinner because they don't want to be confined to their room for the rest of the evening if they are late. In conventional reasoning, the person sees moral reasoning based on their own personal internalization of societal and others' expectations. The person wants to fulfill the expectations of the family, the group, or the nation, and develop a loyalty and actively maintain, support, and justify the order. Moral decision making at this level moves from what's in it for me to how will it affect my relationships with others. In stage 3, good boy, nice girl, they want to win approval and maintain the expectations of one's immediate group. Being good is important and defined as having positive motives, showing concern for others, and keeping mutual relationships through trust, loyalty, respect, and gratitude. Stage 4, society maintaining. This expands their focus from relationship with others to societal concerns. Moral decisions take into account societal perspectives. Right behavior is doing one's duty, showing respect for authority, and maintaining the social order. Post-conventional reasoning. This finds a balance between basic human rights and obligations and societal rules and regulations in the level of post-conventional reasoning. Individuals move away from moral decisions based on authority or conformity to groups to define their own moral values and principles. Stage 5, social contract, follows the societal law but recognizes the possibility of changing the law to improve society. Stage 6, universal ethical principle, defines right by the decision of conscience in accord with self-chosen ethical principles. The principles are abstract, like the Golden Rule, and appeal to logical comprehensiveness, universality, and consistency. Growth and development are multidimensional. Theories are the basis for a meaningful observation of an individual's pattern of growth and development. Theories are guidelines for understanding important human processes and permit nurses to begin to predict human responses and to recognize deviations from the norm. According to Kohlberg, moral development is a component of a psychosocial development. Moral development depends on the child's ability to integrate modeling of others, faith and optimism, social control and independence, decisions of right and wrong. The answer is D. Kohlberg believed that moral development was dependent on the child's ability to integrate decisions of right and wrong.